This is David's first outpatient behavioral health appointment since being discharged from an inpatient psychiatric facility for a suicide attempt. The concept of the suicidal mode can be used to organize David's risk and protective factors and to develop a treatment plan that specifically focuses on his elevated risk for suicide. David's recent suicide attempt and psychiatric hospitalization serve as predispositions for suicide risk, meaning they increase his vulnerability to engaging in additional suicidal behaviors. David does not describe an activating event in the traditional sense. Specifically, he does not describe an external stressor. Rather, his activating event seems to be more internal in nature. This suggests that David may have high cognitive reactivity, which means that he may be especially likely to experience negative thoughts in response to negative mood states. Consistent with this possibility, David describes a process whereby his negative thoughts and emotions escalate over the course of the day in a seemingly positive feedback loop. High cognitive reactivity is a risk factor for suicidal behavior. In the day leading up to a suicide attempt, David describes many negative thoughts and cognitions that contribute to his desire for suicide and eventual suicide attempt. For example, David says the following: I couldn't control anything. Suicide was my only option. The only way to end all this is to kill myself. I'm not doing well at work. I'm letting my wife down. Nothing got better. It got worse and worse. It's so overwhelming. Why can't I get any of this stuff done? This, meaning suicide, would be good for her. At one point, the clinician asked David a question designed to identify his core beliefs. Specifically, the clinician asks, if that were true, what would that mean about you? David's answer reveals one of his core beliefs: I'm a failure. These cognitions sustain and worsen David's anger towards himself. David also describes his emotions as feeling overwhelmed, which may suggest difficulty in identifying his emotional states. In terms of behaviors, David describes several ineffective coping strategies: laying in bed and sitting on the couch. While engaged in these behaviors, David ruminates. David also notes that he experiences headaches when emotionally activated, a physical symptom that is likely the consequence of autonomic arousal. Overall, David's negative and self-critical thoughts increase his anger and negative emotions, which contribute to headaches. When emotionally activated, David responds by laying in bed or sitting on the couch, which are not particularly helpful strategies. Instead of reducing his distress, these behaviors facilitate David's rumination and self-criticism, which further worsens his emotional state. Of note, David describes a brief period of relief from these intense thoughts and emotions when he walks his dog. Although this activity works to reduce his emotional distress, he terminates the activity prematurely when he encounters a neighbor, an indicator of social withdrawal and isolation. This case conceptualization provides some immediate clues for treatment planning. First, David would benefit from a crisis response plan to help him identify personal warning signs for an emotional crisis. Other treatment strategies might include the development of a survival kit or hope box, an intervention designed to help people remember their reasons for living. Cognitive restructuring skills training using ABC worksheets or challenging question worksheets might help him to undermine his suicide-facilitating beliefs. Relaxation and mindfulness exercises may help him to reduce autonomic arousal and to also help reduce rumination. Finally, activity planning and behavioral activation could help David to improve his mood by engaging in meaningful or pleasant activities.